My name is Asad Mahmood, and I am a senior UX designer at Mattermost, and I also am a visual developer. I've been working on Upwork for about, I don't know, 12 years now, or maybe even more. I've been working on there since 2012, so I think that makes it 11 years. I also have had the opportunity of working with tons of clients, such as Prime Medic, Mattermost, Eventbrite, TAM, and I've been with Mattermost primarily since about 6 years now, or I think probably even more. So some of the key questions that I keep on getting asked for is how do you actually become a front end developer, and how do you get good at CSS, good at HTML? And I thought, like, instead of answering those questions one by one, which I've been doing over the past years, like, why don't I just create a course that's going to help you guys become really great at front end, and starting with obviously the basics, HTML and CSS. So this course and this whole journey is probably going to take you from a beginner who doesn't even know much about HTML and CSS and make you an expert about HTML CSS, where you would be learning how to be really good at the front end side of things. That means being really good at the visual development side of things. After we're done with this course, we'll probably head over to the more general front end development sphere with React, Angular, Vue. But for now, let's just get started. So what do you actually need to do? Well, the first thing that you need to do, obviously, you need to understand what HTML and CSS is. But even before that, I'm not really going to go into a lot of theory in this course. I'm just going to be very hands-on. We're going to work on a lot of projects. And for starters, I just want you to go ahead and download the favorite tool of your choice. Since I'm going to actually be working on VSCode, I recommend everyone to download VSCode for the particulars of this exercise, since it has a lot of capabilities about like auto completion, so on and so forth. So what do you actually need to do to install VSCode? Well, the first thing that you need to do is you just need to go on just search VS Code basically on Google, go to Visual Studio Code, their website, and just download the Mac Universal Basic Stable build. After you've done it, you've installed it, you may get something like this, where obviously you have some of the files there, some of the folders. Obviously, you may not have some folders here, but then you can basically just get started working on your basics, HTML and CSS. If you want to go ahead, you can also install some of the plugins that I have, or some of the extensions that I have installed. Like, you may not necessarily need all of them for starters, but just in case, I'm just showing this to you just in case you want to get through it, and just install some of those if it makes sense. Probably like Beautify makes sense, HTML format makes sense, and Prettier, if you want to, yeah, I think Prettier makes sense. So just go ahead and install those extensions if you want. I don't think some of the other ones probably make sense for you. But after you've done that, let's just go and start and just create our first website. And by website, I don't necessarily mean a whole website. We'll get to that. But let's just start understanding what HTML and CSS basically are. For starters, let's just understand like what HTML is. So what I want you to do is, I want you to first of all go to any of your documents. Obviously you can, or like even before going to your documents, just press Command N. After you press Command N, I want you to just go ahead and like Command S for saving, or Control S on Windows. Now you can just go to your desktop, let's say, and just, or even go to your desktop, and you can just create like an index.html file. So any HTML file has an extension of a .html file. Any CSS file basically has an extension of a .css file. There are many different file formats that also support writing HTML and CSS within it. I can write CSS within the HTML file. I can write CSS within a Sass file, a CSS file, a JSX file, a JS file, a Python file. So there are different ways in which you can do that, but these are the standard extensions of these files if they live separately of any overarching architecture. So now let's go ahead and understand what HTML is. So HTML basically is hypertext markup language. It is the building block of any web page. You can just understand it like that. Imagine there's a car. A car has a particular structure. It has tires, it has its body, it has like the engine, And the structure of a car basically is its HTML in its truest sense. The color, how appealing it is, how it looks visually, so on and so forth. Like that's configured with CSS, and obviously all the functionality, how the engine works, and all of that can be done with React. And obviously, like I don't necessarily want to complicate this example, but for this particular example, for this course, you basically need to understand that the HTML is the structure, whereas CSS primarily are just the aesthetics, the visuals that make the structure more beautiful. So how do you actually construct an HTML file? Well, for any HTML file, you have to follow a structure. Now, one thing that I do want to highlight out, anything that you, like HTML is constructed on tags. So for example, you go ahead and you can create, like if for example, if you're on VS Code, you can just open this bracket and then you can see the various different tags that exist in HTML. Now, this is one of the benefits of obviously VS Code, that it gives you all of this documentation with it, and you can go to all of these tags, you can browse through them, you can say, okay, what is a button? The button elements represents a button labeled by its contents. Similarly, for example, if I type H, so H1 element represents a section heading, H2 represents a section heading as well, and then these are just different levels of headings. So what is the basic structure of an HTML document? Let me just zoom in here, just so everyone's able to see it. So if I zoom in, so as you can see here, in order to actually create an HTML tag, you need to open this particular bracket. You need to type the tag that you want to type, and then you need to close it. Thankfully, VS Code for us auto-completes it and fills the closing tag. If you're using another IDE, like it may do it in another way, you may have to close it yourself. But another great thing about VS Code is you don't even have to type, let's say, this bracket in order to open an HTML tag. You can just say HTML and you can just press tab, and that's going to give you an HTML tag. There are other tags, for example, like a div tag. You can just say div and then press a tab, and it's automatically going to complete it. Now that you understand like what the basic structure, like not necessarily the basic structure, like what are the building blocks of HTML is being built on these tags particularly. I'm gonna talk more about like what an HTML page consists of. So an HTML page, basically, for starters, as soon as you press that tag, like you get a doc type tag. So you don't have to close this particular tag. This is just to define what this document is. So this right at the start of this document defines that it's an HTML document to the browser. So this is something that you just need to do. And obviously you don't have to remember the particular syntax like doc type in capital and then HTML. You just press this and you just press this, and obviously VS Code is just going to give you it as an example, and then you press enter and it's done. So that's what you need to do first of all in order to create like that's the first step for the starting structure of an HTML document. Then you go ahead, you open an HTML tag, and I'm just typing HTML, and again, as I said, like press tab, it's going to auto-complete it. After that, what you need to do is you need to create a head tag. A head tag, as it says, represents a collection of metadata for the document. Now, what does that mean? It basically means that there are particular informations. There are like a lot of information in a particular page that aren't really represented or written down on the page. I'm going to give you an example of that, but let's just keep going for now. And then obviously you have a body tag. A body tag, or anything in a body tag, is something that would be printed out on a page. So let's say I'm going to type a body tag, and then I can say, hey, this is our first page. So let's just do that and let's see how it looks. So I have this page here. I'm just going to click it, and as you can see, so this is our first page. I'm also going to zoom in, and I can see, okay, this page is created. I can see, okay, index.html, and now I can type something else. Hey, I can probably type another tag as well. I can say h2 or h1. So we're going to definitely talk about some of the most important tags as we get to them. I'm not going to go ahead and give you a breakdown of every single tag. We're going to get an idea of some of the most important tags as we're going through this tutorials. So I don't think we need to like get acquainted with every single tag. I'm going to explain about tags as we go through them. But again, if there are any questions whatsoever on any tags, their usages, then obviously feel free to leave a comment and we can talk there, or I can do extra video about it as well. So I can type like h1. Now h1 to 6. So if I go here and I can see, okay, there are a lot of like h1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tags here. So what are these h tags? H basically means a heading. So heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5, and heading 6. These are headings that tell the browser the importance of a heading on a page. So if I go with h1, it's going to basically mean like you can consider it to be like the title of the page in a sense. It's not necessarily strictly the title. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to what I mean by that. But if I, let's say, type this is a heading 1. If I do something like that, and if I refresh by Command R or Control R on a Windows machine, so I can see, okay, this is a heading. I get that. And then I can easily duplicate this line by pressing Alt and then Shift and then pressing the keyword down or the arrow down. And this just basically duplicates the line that you're on. If you press down, it's going to duplicate it down. If you press up, it's going to duplicate it up. So I'm just going to duplicate this, like, let's say 6 times. I'm going to select these tags. I select like one tag, the starting one, and then I'm going to press Command D to select, or Control D on Windows. I'm not going to keep on repeating like Control D, Command D, or whatever. I'm just going to say Command D, and I hope you guys can assume that it's going to be Control D or Control whatever on a Windows machine. And I can say, okay, this is H2, H2. Similarly, I go here, Command D, H3, and then here H4, here H5, and then here H6. And then I'm going to also replace them 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. So, and I just save it, and then I can refresh it, and I can see the hierarchy of these headings. By default, the browser provides certain styles for these headings, which obviously, like if I go here, you can see like these are styles that are here. I'm also going to teach you how to use the inspection engine, but I actually am just going to close it for now because I haven't spoken about it. But this inspection engine in Chrome is really important. Firefox also provides it. Internet Explorer also provides it. But I think for our choice of a browser, in this particular case, we're going to be sticking with Chrome just because of the flexibility that it provides, and it's one of the most popular ones out there. So let's just stick with that. So as you can see, this is our page. We have headings here as well, and this should basically give you an idea of what an HTML page comprises of. There's also one thing. I know I mentioned the head tag. It contains the metadata. By metadata, you can basically mean information that's provided to the browser, but it's not necessarily visible on the page. So this white screen is the page, right? I'm just gonna move it side by side, and then I'll also just move it on the side. So, and let's just let's just have a look at this. So this particular screen, and I'm just gonna close the sidebar for now. So as you can see, all of the things that exist in the body are going to be represented on the actual page. Anything in the head is not necessarily going to be there. Now I can't go ahead in the head and I can't really say H1, hey, this is a page. If I do this and if I refresh, this actually works, but this is incorrect. Like this is an inappropriate usage of the head tag. The head tag doesn't necessarily contain content that's going to be printed on the page. This is something that we should not be doing here. What we should, however, be doing here, if you need anything on the page, you have to include it within the body. There's no other way to do this. Chrome is intelligent enough to render it. Some other browsers may not, because this head tag doesn't serve the purpose of rendering content on the page. What it, however, does is, if I go ahead and if I give a title tag and I say learning HTML, and if I save it and then refresh it, can you tell me like what change happened here? If you look closely, you can see nothing on the page actually changed apart from the fact that the H1 that we had here disappeared. But one important and crucial thing changed. The thing that changed is the title of the tab or the page actually changed to whatever I have written here. So that's the purpose here. It provides information to the browser about this particular page. What are some of the things included in this page? Like I can include my CSS files here. I can include some other metadata information here, like what the zooming behavior should be, like should the page be responsive, so on and so forth. But basically, this is the structure of a page. And in the next exercise, we'll explore some of the other important tags that are being used in HTML. And this should hopefully be a great start for anyone looking to learn HTML and CSS. And I'll be uploading videos pretty quick and pretty soon. So stay in touch and subscribe for any updates, and hit the notification icon or the bell icon to actually get any updates on this. So thanks a lot. I'll see you next time.